his quest to find a way to end his immortal life. But before he can do that, he finds out that his ex-wife was abducted by the mob, and he teams up with her daughter to find her before this unspeakable magical apocalypse takes place. And he discovers maybe he does have some things he wants to live for before the end of the story.
Fitz of Writing.
Good evening, everybody. This is Sean from Fitz of Writing. I've got another author interview for you all tonight. I'm sitting here with Alexander Thomas. He wants to tell us about his stories and a little bit about himself. Do you prefer Alexander or do you go by Alex?
Alex is fine. Yeah,
Alex is
Alexander's
fine.
just what I put on the books. And when I'm in trouble.
Aha. Well, yeah, I did like what I read about. It seems like you've got like a cool little fantasy world going on with that. But is the book itself titled the Titan City Chronicles, or is there the overarching series?
Yeah, so the overarching kind of the multimedia landscape is called the Titan City Chronicles.
Okay.
And the first novel is The Magician's Sin. That's book 1 of the Titan City Chronicles.
Gotcha. Well, and this is the one that you sent us where your main character is coming back to this hotel that is inhabited and ran by ghosts, where her father was murdered. Is that?
That's book 2 of the Titan City Chronicles.
Okay.
That's the Magnus Haunting. That's the one I'm currently working on, releasing soon.
Well, tell everybody a little bit about the series then, and how it starts off with book 1, and get into a little bit about book 2 and how new that is for you and everything.
Yeah, so the Titan City Chronicles takes place in Titan City, the world of, which is an alternate 1920s and 30s, where everybody in the world found out that magic and monsters were real in 1908, and they've been doing their best to deal with it in a J. Edgar Hoover sort of way.
Okay.
Primarily, the society has founded something called the Department of Monster Affairs, which is the federal agency in charge of figuring out how to bring all of this supernatural stuff into line with normal society. The first book, The Magician's Sin, follows the story of Anson Walker, who is a wizard turned monster hunter who was the person who revealed to the world that magic was real.
Okay.
And kind of his quest to find a way to end his immortal life. But before he can do that, he finds out that his ex-wife was abducted by the mob, and he teams up with her daughter to find her before this unspeakable magical apocalypse takes place. And he discovers maybe he does have some things he wants to live for before the end of the story.
Okay. And you said his wife is kidnapped?
His ex-wife is kidnapped.
Ex-wife. Okay. And his daughter, he teams up with his daughter. Who's the main character of the second book then?
He teams up with her daughter, not his daughter.
Okay.
To track her down.
I'm listening really good tonight.
Yeah, no worries. And the second book is the story of a Department of Monster Affairs agent named Maggie Conroy, who is heading to a New England hotel to investigate the death of her father for the Department of Monster Affairs. They're trying to figure out if the ghosts who own and operate the place are the ones who killed him, or if it's a human trying to make it look like the ghosts are responsible for some nefarious reason.
Okay, so are these stories that you're planning on having them, like, they're just all in the same world, or are they, like, interconnected in some way, shape, or form?
They're all in the same world. There are some crossover characters between stories, but for the most part, the Titan City stuff is, for now, isolated pockets of here's a story about an interesting character in an interesting situation. Just showcasing some of the world building and trying to make sure everybody knows that there's lots of different stories in the setting that can be told.
Yeah.
And that's partially in service to the tabletop role-playing game that we're working on releasing, set in this world. So people can buy that book and they can tell their own stories set in Titan City.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're making not only just a world for your stories, but everybody else can contribute too. Then that's
Yeah, my day job is with Green Running Publishing, where I'm a line developer for Mutants and Masterminds, and we are working on an official Titan City campaign setting book. So people who like Mutants and Masterminds can get into the world. They can figure out what monsters are, what the factions are. They can tell their own stories. I've been running convention games set in this world for almost 8 years now.
How long have you had the store, like the series out? Has that been a newer thing, or is this just, how long's this whole thing been going that you've been cooking up the world and everything?
Yeah, so I started Titan City in 2011. It started as a character I made for a game I was going to play.
Okay.
Anson, the main character of the first book, was a player character of mine who, in the game I was playing, he came to an end that I did not like. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book about it instead of going to therapy.
Okay. Potato, really.
And yeah, I published the first novel in 2018, and I've been working on the second one in earnest for the last couple of years. Most of my effort's been on the role-playing side of things.
Okay. Is the second book out yet? Or are you still finishing that up? Okay.
I'm still finishing that up. The goal is for it to be out around fall this year. Hopefully in time for October, since it's got all the spooky ghost stuff, and I think people would like it around that.
Yeah, a good seasonal read. It sounds like it from what you put in for like the blurb and everything into the submission, that it definitely is a good Halloween read. I like the interactivity that you're kind of setting yourself up to have. That not a whole lot of times do like authors, at least that I've talked to, set up for their world to be contributed to and played inside sort of like a sandbox thing going on with your with the world you've made and everything. Have you had a lot of people, would you say that like people are pulled in from your stories into the world, or they start in the world and then they check out your stories? Which one do you think you've kind of ran into more?
I think for the most part, it's people find out about the world and then they get into the stories. I do a lot of in-person appearances at conventions, especially gaming conventions. I just got back from one. That's just why I have this terrible chest cold. It's kicking my butt from being around people. But I run somewhere between 6 and 13 game slots, and I have other game masters who also run stories set in the world to get like the most exposure from the con.
Sure.
And that's having other people write stories in your own world. That's one of the most surreal experiences, I think, that I've gone through as an author.
Yeah.
It's cool. I get to sit down and walk around the streets of my city and not know what's going to happen, which is very strange for a fictional world I created.
I can imagine that being rewarding for everybody. It's got to be pretty dang cathartic to know that people enjoy your world enough that they want to get inside it and kind of mess around with the bits and bobs all on their own and everything. So I think that's a really interesting way to encourage storytelling while storytelling for the sake of storytelling with everybody. Yeah. And it gives you something to talk to people with and gets them to really know you as an author too. And I think that there's probably something really invaluable with that. You are also you can tell me what your favorite karaoke song is. I saw that was one of your things, is your go-to. But help me out here. The last thing that you mentioned that you do professionally, I am having some serious brain fog today, and I can't get past it.
So I'm a line developer for a tabletop role-playing game called Mutants and Masterminds, which means that I write stuff as we need it. I edit stuff. I give freelance writers their assignments. I help construct art orders for, like, this is the art we want in our book. And I help schedule what books we're going to be writing and make sure that everything is turned in on time. And I'm mostly a lot of project managing and coordinating. We just had a Kickstarter for the 4th edition of Mutants and Masterminds earlier this year. Which was awesome. It was great. We raised $320,000 for new copies of the book,
Wow.
or the new edition of the book, and it's one of the oldest running superhero role-playing games on the market. So if you like D&D, but you want to be like Iron Man instead of a dwarf, that's sort of what Mutants and Masterminds is.
Well, there you go. The other thing that you had mentioned, it came back to me. It's the untold stories that you said you're on Twitch and on YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that and what you do. I'm going to put a link to at least your YouTube channel down in the video description for everybody to check you out. But tell everybody what that's a little bit about.
Yeah, so I'm the director of the Untold Stories Project, which is it's an actual play community where we try to showcase voices and RPGs that don't get the attention of things like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. We run a lot of Mutants and Masterminds because that's my favorite game, and we have a podcast right now called the Titan City Serials, which is little bite-sized stories set in the Titan City universe with different characters and different scenarios every month or so. But we run the Street Fighter storytelling game. We run Lancer, which is a mecha RPG. We've done Werewolf the Apocalypse, Blue Rose, Everyday Heroes, Monster of the Week. Honey Heist is really great. Honey Heist is a game where you are a bear and a criminal, and those are your two stats, are bear and criminal, and you roll to see what you do.
All right.
Yeah, just lots of fun indie RPGs and things like that.
Well, I'm always going to appreciate somebody who tries to let everybody get their stuff out there to be seen rather than get overshadowed by like the bigger names and whatnot. It's kind of what we do with this channel, is try to shout out people who are trying to get their names out there on a platform that I didn't find a whole lot of examples of, them getting a chance to do that, at least not on YouTube and maybe not on Spotify either whenever I break into that realm. I really like that, though. That sounds like a really awesome thing to do for people, especially in that whole tabletop RPG. We've talked to a lot of D&D players, and I think that that's a really big boon for like creativity and everything, and helping people like tell captivating stories in regards to like fantasy and maybe even a touch of sci-fi. But we've only talked to like one other person that I can recall who's created their own tabletop RPG, being Eric Staggs, and it's a very interesting thing to think about, like having to also add in your rules and all of the different things that you can make when you construct something like that, and you having to make a lot of executive decisions, it sounds like, about what is and isn't cool and moving forward and getting left behind and things like that. When do you exactly find time to write?
I try to make a little time every day. I try to write at least for an hour.
Okay.
I should write more, but I have my day job writing and my evening writing. That's why it's taking me so long to get my second book out, on top of the other stuff I've been working on.
Right.
But it's about being precious about that time that you do have and being effective with it. Even though I don't write a lot of hours every day, I do try to always make sure when I'm done writing, I stop at a point where I'm excited to continue writing. So I have like that motivation to come back, and I know immediately where I'm picking up. And I'm a big outliner. So yes. I take my writing and I break it down into very manageable chunks. So I can see that I'm making progress from a macro scale, which helps with motivation for that stuff too.
I like that, and I am the same way. If I tried to do it, I've told people this before, like that I talk to so many people who are pantsers, or I'd get lost and just kind of wander off at having that outline and the structure to the story, and knowing that like, oh, I'm past these bullet points and here's the next thing. That keeps me on track and everything. So I appreciate that. Thank you for being an outliner and not making me feel so lonely.
Yeah, I've got my the Magnus Haunting stuff. I've got my stack of index cards. These are all my tasks, all my scenes that I've outlined, ready to work on. I lay them out physically on the space in front of me, so I can see like the story from a macro perspective, and I can move things around if I want to see how a scene looks somewhere else in the makeup of things.
Have you ever been like telling one of these stories in the Titan City world and everything, and you've like gone off the reservation, like, and just totally gotten lost? And if that has happened, did you find your way back, or did you just mess with the outline?
It happens all the time. I think that is one of the biggest perks of being a tabletop game master. I think everybody who's a writer should try it at least once, because you actually have to respond to what the characters are doing. You can't just like be like, oh, well, they're my characters, I'll make them do whatever I want. When there's another person controlling what's going on, you have to be flexible and you have to reward that agency. So you have to be able to sort of maneuver around some chaos and bring things back into alignment, which is it's an interesting skill to develop, and it's one that I'm glad that I've brought into my authorial state, because I outline, but I will never. If a character is telling me we don't want to do this, or this isn't what I would do, I listen to that and I try to find ways to, okay, well, that's not what we're going to do. Are we going to do this, and how does that affect the outline down the line? Like, I try not to. I use the outline for my intended purpose of motivation and keeping track of progress, but I never let it get in the way of the story moving in a way that feels organic. Like, I would never try to force the outline to be what it is if that's not what it's trying to be.
I don't. I'm working on the second book that I've written as an adult, and I have yet to experience my characters defying my will. But I don't know. Because of that, I have no idea how I would handle it or deal with it. So that's something that I'm trying to. I struggle to kind of imagine. But there's a lot of people who seem to all, analogies and allegories aside, like, catch themselves writing their character doing something they don't think their character would do, and it makes me wonder if I've ever done that. And it makes me worry. So
it's usually pretty noticeable when that happens. Like, you can usually tell, especially if you do I outline my characters a lot. I do like very detailed character sheets that give me an idea of sort of what they want and how they would respond to a situation.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing idea. What made you pick the time frame that the Titan City Chronicles take care of? I saw the map that you sent us, and I'll put it up on the screen for everybody to see. But it looks like a huge chunk of basically.
Me. I didn't remember everything I sent you. That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah, no, it was there. And I think Ryan got really excited that there was a map there too. But what made you pick the place, the time? How does that fit with the stories you're trying to tell?
Well, it is where Boston would be in our world, is where I settled Titan City.
So I zoomed out
and
too far.
Picked.
Okay.
Nah, it's all good. I picked a fictional city instead of a real city because I realized I was writing in a different time period, and I didn't want to have to do all the research of, like, did this street exist in 1933? What were the buildings like? Because people will call you out on things like that. I got called out because I included a high five in my book, and apparently the high five was invented in the 70s. Before that, it was all low fives.
Wow. It's a weird thing to pick issue with.
Like, come on.
Right.
I'm like, what about the wizard who's throwing magic spells all over the place?
No, that was fine.
But it's just it's something that happens when you're writing fiction, historical fantasy.
Yeah, I could see there being some purists.
Yeah, I picked the time period mostly because the main character of the first book, I sort of looked at the entire scope of his life cycle. He was born in 1842.
Okay.
Fought in the American Civil War and became immortal at the end of the American Civil War. And I looked at where I thought the most interesting portion of his life was going to be, which I decided was the end, set in the 1930s. And I combined that with the idea that the 30s is also sort of the dawn of the superhero genre. That's where you get the first Superman comic books are coming out in 1938. You've got people like The Shadow and Doc Savage running around a little bit before that. And I saw that time period as a transition point between the main character as sort of a classical fantasy wizard, handing it off to the other character who is a superhero wizard, and sort of that being a good transition point. I've also always been a huge fan of film noir and the tropes of classic like black and white detective movies and pulp serials. And I wanted to sort of integrate all of that while avoiding dealing with some of like modern conveniences and things like that. And I think in my head, I always knew I wanted it to be a full RPG, and the RPG I like the most already has a setting for modern day. So I was like, if I ever down the line want to make this a game, it'll be easier to sell it to the publisher if I'm like, well, that's a modern game, but here's my game at the dawn of superheroes, and it's got monsters in it.
Sure.
But I like the trappings and tropes. I always wanted Humphrey Bogart to play my main character. I had a great time with Spider Noir that just came out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I do feel like there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it nostalgia, but I like a little bit of a renewed interest in storytelling in that general vein. I know an author who's writing sort of a bit of a noir series, and it's not contemporary, I don't believe. It's a little bit back there, just not as far back as the 30s. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I read what they were putting together, and I don't know if they want anyone knowing that I've been looking at their stuff, so I won't say who it is, but it is also sort of a noir fantasy type thing, but it's a lot more underground and whatnot. With your stuff, your magic and everything, like, is that, you said that, help me out here and go over, like, you said that it was like revealed to everybody, right? By your wizard character?
Yep. Basically he put on a big magic show in 1908. He came to Titan City to work on vaudeville for his old friend from the war. And he fell in love with his friend's daughter, and they were like, well, we can make a magic show that'll knock the socks off everything because you know real magic. And he was dumb and listened to that.
Okay.
Didn't think about the consequences. With the rise of the Department of Monster Affairs, that federal agency that helps with studying and integrating monsters, Titan City's become the largest supernatural melting pot in the world, where there's monsters who live among regular people. There are sort of quiet neighborhoods that are all monsters. There are monsters who are a little more acceptable to the public that they're willing to allow live in close proximity. Things like vampires. Because they tend to just be like hot humans, according to the humans in the area, are a little more acceptable than things like there are sleep paralysis demons, and there are snake people called Ophidians, and these descendants of the Egyptian goddess Ammit called Amidians, who are part crocodile, part hippopotamus, and part lion, who are not accepted in polite society as much, and they have to find jobs sort of in the mob and in like lower blue collar class jobs and things like that. There's a lot of everybody's bumping up and trying to figure each other out.
Okay.
There's one short story I wrote about the Department of Monster Affairs being sent to investigate a home disturbance where a zombie and a ghost from the same person are arguing over who gets to live in the house that they both cohabitate, because they're technically the same person. So it's up to them to decide how that works.
And who, I'm not going to ask you who wins. Read the book. Read the short story. That is an interest. And then that would be something that you would call, like, the police for, the ghost monsters, whatever police. I like that. And that was kind of what I was wondering, was like if there was some kind of weird veil where there was like, it was hush-hush that there were monsters. I feel like a lot of stories that do this sort of a structure try to keep some like big veil between the monsters and the humans and everything, and try to kind of suppress the knowledge that those are out there. And you've more or less had it like, because of a magic show, now everybody knows that this stuff is out there and they accept it even if they don't like it. And
yeah,
I like,
and there's lots of humans who don't like it.
Yeah.
There's a anti-monster or a human supremacy group called the Children of Adam, ADAM, like Adam and Eve, who lead rallies against monsters, and they try to suppress monster rights. And there's a lot of allegory. One thing about this time period that I do, I modify it a little bit. It draws inspiration from the 1920s and 30s, but I'm not interested in blindly sort of recreating the prejudices of that era.
Sure.
I take kind of an inclusive approach to the characters and the history, acknowledging that people of different backgrounds, identities, and communities have always existed and deserve to be full participants in the story. So I don't spotlight some things that this time period is known for.
Right.
In my mind, I kind of think sort of that idea that like if aliens invaded, we would all become one human race at that point. So that sort of idea where humans are all relatively able to get along.
Yeah. Okay. One would hope anyway. I don't know about.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I used to believe in people. I don't.
It gets worse the older I get. I do like that though, because you're tackling the things that you want to say about it without necessarily trying to assume the point of view of anybody else, and I think that that's probably one of the most respectful ways to go about it, or at least an attempt at it. And so I like that idea, and I like the time frame and everything like that feels like a really good choice. And I think that it is a good move, especially with somebody who wants to have such an expansive and inclusive world for everybody to participate in, that it is like a widely known thing that monsters and magic and all that stuff's out there, because that offers so much more opportunity for people to like get in there and have a story going over here without a bunch of storylines maybe getting stacked up on top of each other, where you might lose somebody saying like there's too much happening on this street right now and everything. And
I will say, for people interested in getting involved in Titan City, the podcast is a really great place. Speaking of stories being like all these different options, like the current one that's releasing is about a group of undead minions for a necromancer supervillain called the Gravedigger, and their like experience of the fall of his empire and how they're bringing that about.
okay.
There's one that is monster and magic using kids at summer camp, competing with another school of monster and magic using kids. There's one I did that was heavily inspired by the TV show From, where a bunch of people wound up in a dark pocket dimension of imagination and had a bad time. And probably my favorite one so far, it's called Full on the Hill, and it is about 4 private investigators who are all hired to track down the same idiot. And the sort of shenanigans that ensue when they all realize that they have employers with opposing goals, and like which one of us gets to keep the guy and what's going on with that.
Well, you really don't seem like you get stuck too often with like having to write the same story, and I don't want to call it an anthology or anything, but it definitely, you've built the world in such a way that you can do whatever you want to with it, and I really like it. I can't imagine a way that you could have done that better. Was that the goal from the start with you? Like, as far as like just having that kind of freedom with story and whatnot? Because none of those stories sound like they're even remotely the same to the one before it or anything, or the one after it. And like, you've given yourself the opportunity to keep the thing that you created, but you can do whatever you want within it. And it's kind of blowing my mind right now. So
I don't think it was intentional from the start, but I think it was a very good side effect of my origin as a game master. Because when you set out to play a role-playing game, you know, you're going to have players who have their own idea of what kind of character they want to play, what they want to bring to the table. And I've written so many like 4-hour stories that I needed a world where all of them could happen conceivably in the same place, where there's different stakes and there's different emotions that I'm trying to tie on and different genres I'm trying to get into. Where I think just my background in game design, trying to create playable spaces for people, it really made it so that I realized that it was a benefit that I could bring into the storytelling that I was doing, so that there was ways for people to buy into the setting that were not just, here's a book I can read, now I have to wait for the next book, or you know, where can I be in the story? How can I imagine myself in this space? And I think that helps with reader investment and player investment a lot.
Absolutely. I think it's brilliant. I think it's just like what you were just saying, not having to wait for the next book either and everything, especially since you're a busy guy and you don't get to write all that often. You still can stay fresh in everybody's mind while they're interacting with the world in a different way. is how expansive is this world that you wrote? Like, if the map, me being an idiot thinking it was all of Europe and it's really just near Boston and everything, which like
So primarily, I have an idea of what's going on in the rest of the world. Most of the stories take place in the surrounding metropolitan area of Titan City, but
okay,
I have created a New Orleans analog where the main character is from called Bon Chance, which I'll be visiting some 70s noir stories with him the next time he pops up. I'll be jumping forward in time a little bit. But there is a Chicago analog called Ventosa, where like organized crime has taken over a lot of ways in the 1930s, and it sort of creates a funnel to Titan City to sort of move magical artifacts and things like that into the hands of criminals. There is the wider cosmological stuff of Titan City. Basically, there is this place called Tartarus in the setting that is. I call it the drain trap at the end of the universe, where anyone from any when can wander in. And it's kind of the plug that leads down into the mythological realm of Tartarus. And there's lots of cosmology and lots of history there that nobody's gotten a hand on. But it helps inform me as I'm coming up with story ideas and how things are going to develop. And then I've got like what happened in World War One. I sort of figured out what some of the divergence points were, because if everybody found out about magic and monsters in 1908, that gave them about 8 years to start weaponizing the monsters and magic users of their communities.
Sure.
So there was a big surge of there was a zombie apocalypse basically in Poland during World War One that Wizard had to go handle, and I have a whole story plotted for that I've not written yet because I have so many ideas and not enough time.
Well, that's fair. I had the whole idea to ask in my head if you were ever planning on leaving this literary universe to write something outside of it, and it literally just out of a point of curiosity, because I don't think you ever have to if you don't want to, but I was wondering, like, is there any...
I have 2 books I want to write that are not set in the Titan City universe.
Okay. What inspired them?
Is a one of them is a post-apocalyptic romance story starring a vampire named Gary, who was working at a gas station on the day the nukes fell, and a vampire burst in and fed on him in the walk-in freezer for a couple of months, turning him into an imperfect vampire who turns into a fruit bat instead of a vampire bat, and he tries to eat melons around the apocalypse.
Okay.
And he's just a menace to the Fallout style survivors until they basically team up with him to defeat his sire, who is like vampire Immortal Joe from Mad Max.
Okay.
Which I'm here for. I've been noodling on that for a while, and I have another series that it's a 3-book series, starting with a book called Dead End Job, which is about a young woman who gets shot and killed at her retail job on the day she gets fired. And when she gets to the afterlife, she finds out she has to pay off all the bad things she did by working a job similar to the ones on her resume. And she winds up working at a ghostly retail store called Happy Hauntings. And she gets crushed by afterlife capitalism.
A fate worse than death, some might say. That is...
Some would say.
Interesting. Is there any reason that those aren't involved? Or is it just, does it feel too different and out of place for your world?
Gary feels a little too different, and I don't want to establish like a nuclear apocalypse in the timeline for Titan City.
Yeah.
Percy's story, Dead End Job, could work in Titan City, but I think there is a benefit to her not knowing the situation in the afterlife. Like, walking around Titan City, you could talk to a ghost and be like, what happens after you die? And the ghost can be like, well, this happened to me, if you want to compare notes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's kind of a root understanding in the Titan City setting that anything enough humans have sufficiently believed in is true. So there's mythology is real. There's a number of afterlives that you can wind up in. You could wind up as a ghost, like you can haunt things. Like, it just depends on sort of what you believe at the time of your demise.
Okay. I feel bad.
There are gods walking around vying for support.
Okay. Well, I feel bad because I'm not asking you much about your characters and everything, but it feels like you'll have a different one with each story, and I don't really know. Do you see? You said that the wizard in the first book, his name is Anson?
Yep.
Okay. And so, do you see him like coming back in other stories that you write that are taking place in this world as it moves along? Do you already have that planned? Tell us about him a little bit.
So yeah, Anson is a character I conceived of because I was very interested in what happens to the Chosen One when their prophecy is over.
Okay.
He won. He defeated the big bad evil guy back in 1865, and now it's 1933, and he's still here, and he will always be here. As far as he knows, his fate will one day be to be launched into space when the Earth is destroyed and forced to float through the unknown at the speed of a guy flying through space. So he doesn't have a lot to look forward to, and he is kind of just a walking power pack for people who are interested in getting things done. And his experiences post defeating the big bad evil guy have just sort of left him as a misanthrope and kind of a jaded jerk. So he's really fun to write for because he gets to be an asshole all the time, and I never do that in real life. I got one of the best reviews ever at a book club in my hometown when these little old ladies who did not know what they were signing up for with my books were like, "We like him as a character, but we're not inviting him to Sunday dinner."
Okay.
I was like, "That's fair. You shouldn't. He's the worst. He wouldn't want to come."
It wouldn't be much fun. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have plans for him to return in the future. I can say that confidently for all the people who have been asking me, "Where's Anson? Why is he not back yet?" He's coming.
You heard it here first, or second, I hope. Anyway, that Anson
I have
will be back.
a sort of a Thor Ragnarok situation planned for him where he's in Tartarus right now and has to find his way back.
Okay.
Hopefully learning some sort of moral lesson.
Do you have... Would you call him your favorite character that you've made so far, as like their arc and everything and what they've learned and how they've developed?
Yeah, he's probably the default favorite character I have in Titan City. There's a lot that I really like, though. In the Magnus haunting, I'm really enjoying writing Maggie Conroy. She's different than any character I've ever written before. She is haunted in a lot of the same ways Anson is, but she doesn't let that define her.
Okay.
She made a mistake early on in her magical career that has defined her relationship with her family this whole time. And she's learned to suppress, and she's learned to try to use what happened for good, but there is a lot of just world weariness to her and a lot of competence and a lot of hyper awareness of her position in the world. I think has been an interesting thing to write because she's basically a special agent for the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
She gets sent into the field by herself most often. She just got partnered with another one of my favorite characters I'm writing, who is Agent Theodore Jones, but everybody calls him Agent Bones because he's a wisecracking skeleton who was assigned to the middle of nowhere so that he could be basically a visibility hire for the Department of Monster Affairs without ever being expected to do any work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you got to have the wisecracking cohort. I don't want to say that I'm getting like Mulder and Scully vibes there, but it sounds like you could have that kind of a fun partnership in the story.
So I've actually been calling them Mulder and Scully, but it's been MOULDR, like moldering, and Scully he's got a skull. So a lot of undead X-Files for sure.
I can dig it. So what's the character that you've written that was the least fun for you or the most difficult to catch, and feel like you were doing it right?
Yeah, honestly, the Caroline, the ex's daughter who comes to help Anson, who hires Anson basically to find her mom.
Mm-hmm.
The first draft I wrote the book, I don't think I settled on what age she actually was until the second draft of the book. Okay. Sometimes she came across as like 12 or 13, and sometimes she was like early 20s. Like it just sort of was all over the place. I was having trouble finding where I wanted to anchor her in the story and what I wanted her voice to be. I finally settled in on like 19, so she's a little more experienced than a teenager, and she's had a little bit of world experience, but she's still very charismatic and very optimistic about things because even though it's the Great Depression, she's grown up in an entertainer's lifestyle, and she's had a very fabulously wealthy mom who's constantly trying to pressure her to run away and join the circus like she did, while she's trying to find a respectable, like, I need a day job. I don't want to be on stage getting stared at by people all the time. I don't like that like you like that, Mom.
Okay.
So I really like that dynamic too of the parent who's like, you should go play trumpet on the street and do whatever you want instead of being all buttoned up.
Gotcha. I could see that being a little bit difficult, especially with not being sure about how old a character is and everything. Even picking in the middle there at 19. I don't have a 19-year-old daughter, but I know that my 12-year-old daughter would do some crazy things if she was the daughter of a famous circus act. Is there a character that you would say you think your readers will all love, and is there a character that you think that your readers will all hate?
So the feedback I've gotten so far, everybody hates Caroline's mom, the famous circus performer lady.
Okay.
And I think that's partially because she's painted a lot in Anson's point of view, and he doesn't like her very much because she broke his heart and ruined his life, in his opinion.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think of the characters that are not main characters, because a lot of people do really enjoy Anson. I get a lot of good comments about that in my reviews where they're like, I don't usually like anti-heroes, but there's something about him that every time I feel like I can't root for him, I learn something new. And I feel like, okay, I get why he's like this, that sort of nougaty center wrapped in a thing of steel wool.
Yeah. Delicious.
But I think of the wider setting characters, there is the enigmatic owner of Club Tartarus, Mr. Powers, that nobody knows a lot about, but everybody can go to learn some information or to get a resource they didn't have access to.
Okay.
Which is a benefit of running games in this world, is because I can have these side characters that players get a relationship with, because they're, oh, that Mr. Powers guy helped me out in my situation, and now he's in the book, and I'm excited about that.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, Anson never shows up to help anybody in the games. He just shows up to cause trouble.
Well, what's anybody going to do about it? He's going to be around long after they're dead anyway. I could see the disenchantment.
Threw him in the ocean last time I ran with him. It's like, come on. Don't throw him in the ocean. He has to walk back.
Oh, that'd be funny. You got to have some fun, though, playing with an immortal character like that, too. Though, like...
Yeah.
And the kind of stuff that weighs on them that doesn't weigh on regular people. So I could see you having a lot of fun with that. I could see it being a fun person to read about. All of them sound interesting.
Yeah, and he's so petulant. Like, for an immortal, he's so petulant because he's not even 100 years old yet at the time of the book. So he's like, it's like, calm down, all right? You got a lot of brooding to do for the next couple millennia. Can you just, like, not front load it all? Can you be in the enjoying your immortality part?
Right? Superman just came out in the comic books. Like, enjoy something for a bit. I would say that I've always been a big fan of, like, that kind of stuff that immortals have to kind of contend with emotionally, whether you're, 100 years old yet or not, just knowing. And I'm assuming that is all magical in nature. And magic existed and everything before the big reveal, so it's been around in the shadows the entire time that your worlds existed.
It was being enforced by the wizard lords. There was basically a council of wizards who decided what people got to know about and dealt with the people who knew about things.
Okay.
But Anson killed all of them at the end of the American Civil War.
Okay. And then everything just kind of exploded from there.
Yeah. There was a period where things started sneaking out into the light before Anson revealed everything in 1908.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like
and there's a
really...
couple wizards still hanging around. I think there's 50 or so wizards left in the world in the last census I did for myself. But they're a dying type of magic user. Basically, magic in my world's divided by there are wizards who are full-fledged magic users, and there are magic users who are less powerful but have more diverse abilities.
Okay.
The magic system is separated on the color wheel, kind of like Green Lantern color rings, if you're familiar with DC Comics.
Yeah.
Where different colors of magic do different things. And then the magic users are the spokes between like red, orange, yellow in that space. They can do a little bit about what both wizards can do, but not nearly as powerful. And there's not as many new wizards coming into fruition because there's nobody teaching them or training them. So there's a proliferation of magic users.
Okay.
And then Anson is the white wizard, which is all the colors combined. That's what makes him so special from a
What is that guy's
power scaling perspective.
The White Lantern, Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle Rayner. Yep.
Rayner, that's it. Yep, Kyle Rayner. He's the Kyle Rayner. He's got an attitude problem, and he gets thrown in the ocean. That's fun. Seems like a guy I could follow. It's even funnier when he deserves it. Okay. I mean, I've already kind of gushed over it. I think it's an awesome idea, and I think it sounds like a lot of fun for anybody that would get involved with it. With the time that we've got going on this, it's probably best for us to start kind of wrapping things to a close. Why don't you let everybody know how they can find, where best to find your books, where best they can get your game, and I'll put everything that you say down in the description, and where they can follow you as well.
Yeah, so the best place to follow me is at alexanderwrites.com. Write like the activity, not the thing they keep taking away from us. That's where you can find my book. You can find some short stories on the website. You can find some Game Master advice, blog posts. You can also follow me at twitch.tv/Untold Stories Project, where I stream multiple times a week. I'm always happy to answer questions if you have questions about Titan City or anything at all. Or you can follow me at the Titan City Serials podcast, which is on Spotify and anywhere else podcasts are available if you want to get a taste of some of the gameplay that we do. And if you're going to be in Indy in a few weeks, I'll be at Gen Con. I'm running 3 Titan City games, so if you want to come hang out and get into one of the games, I do have a couple tickets left, so stop by and I can probably sneak you in if you're interested.
Great. All right. I enjoyed this. I really like the world you're building here, and I think that everybody should probably, I don't want to say everybody should take care of your idea or anything like that, but I definitely think that more ways should be explored for folks to have such an interactive experience with the world and the characters that you've created. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. Is there anything you want to say to everybody before we call it a night?
Just if you haven't, play a game. I think that's one of the best things we can do as growing people. Keeps your mind sharp. It gives you social skills. I love role-playing games, but board games are great too. Just engage the child in your body and you'll be a happier person.
Great. Well, if you want to support Alexander or any of the other authors that we host on the show, please give us a like, share the video, subscribe, semperscribe, whatever Ryan says. I think on that note, we are going to fade to black.